A minister on the ropes over a pork barrelling scandal. The Prime Minister still struggling to recover after mishandling the bushfire disaster. And now, a dramatic step to halt the spread of a deadly virus. It's a new year and a new political landscape.
Members on my right, members on my left, members on both sides. Mr. Speaker.
Well, welcome to the first day of Parliament for the year.
Well, there is turmoil in the Nationals ranks this morning with the former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce set to challenge Michael McCormack for the party's top job.
Who knows where this day is going to end?
We are standing by for a result from that party room meeting.
Michael McCormack, first Nationals leader to be challenged in more than 30 years. This is a very rare event, and what a day to choose.
Have you got the numbers?
Leader's position was won by Mr Michael McCormack, and the Deputy Leader is David Littleproud.
How pleased are you that your Deputy is now David Littleproud?
He's a good man. He's a good man. There he is. Thankfully I said he's a good man. How are you, mate? You good?
Bit of a tough week for you.
Not really. We were close. We know where we are. I believe that we were within one vote, possibly two.
Barnaby Joyce, he didn't have the numbers to take back his old job, but he does have the numbers to cause plenty of trouble for the bloke he tried to topple, Michael McCormack, and the Prime Minister.
I think we all knew we'd start the week and probably lose Bridget McKenzie, but the loss of Matt Canavan gives you an indication of how unpredictable I think this start to the parliamentary year has been.
Yeah, the landscape just shifted with these cracks emerging from left, right, centre. It was quite amazing.
Never before has there been such an important time for the National Party.
At the Nationals, it was all just falling apart.
What, months earlier had won all their seats, they'd kept the House in order to survive an election, and then by the mere months later you could have two cabinet ministers gone. Yeah. Just from their own handlings.
The fact that Michael McCormack has had to say that he's had a showdown on leadership 3 times in the past 18 months or so.
It's like they're bored.
Well, bored or just going through some sort of existential crisis. Oh, it's a really wacky first week, wasn't it?
So, how long have you been in Canberra?
6 days.
And what do you think of it? What do you think about Parliament House as a place?
It's so weird, hey? It's like a clubhouse, right? Like everyone comes to the club for a week and there's like a lunch place, a place where you get your coffee.
Just wanting to ask about Melbourne.
What I can confirm.
Oh my God, what a crowd.
Now, what do you think about the way that the extreme weather over the last couple of months have affected federal politics in this place?
I get the sense, and from who I've spoken to as well, that everyone left for the summer with a sense that the government was very much on top of things, and we've come back with kind of a different vibe. The election seems a long way away now, you know, when there was such that outpouring of support for Scott Morrison.
Scott Morrison has started the year in much deeper political trouble than most of his recent predecessors, against a backdrop of the unresolved sports rorts scandal and a summer of catastrophic fires.
We're going to put the truck up there on the clearing.
The political response to the bushfire emergency is being discussed today.
Well, they've been told they're staying out of the road. They'll be knocked over if they do.
So many people here have lost their homes.
Nah, you're an idiot, mate. You really are.
You won't be getting any votes.
No Liberal votes. You're out, son. You are out.
Scott Morrison was confronted by angry residents while visiting the burnt-out town of Cobargo.
People are angry and people are
angry with you,
and people are upset. Well, whether they're angry with me or they're angry about their situation, all I know is that they're hurting.
Do you think the climate stuff is changing though? Do you think that the Prime Minister is going to be forced into a change to his approach to climate change?
Well, we've already seen reports that that Australia will change its target heading into 2050. So I think it's already starting to emerge.
I reckon it's the vibe, isn't it? The vibe of the summer.
I was going to say that, but I didn't think it was.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's the vibe, but I think it's pretty similar to the early 2000s when Australia was going through the millennium drought and Canberra was just this baking, dry, horrible place, water restrictions left, right and centre. And suddenly climate change became something that was tangible. And I think it's something similar has happened over summer, where you've had the bushfires, you've had the drought.
Definitely. It feels like everybody has a connection to somebody that was either affected by the fires or one of the flow-on effects from the fires. And it's become so much more commonplace. And even the drought in the lead up to Christmas, it still seemed a real regional issue, but it feels like the bushfires have sort of bridged that divide, maybe.
This thing's had quite an outing in
recent
years.
You're talking about this thing? Well, this is pretty amazing, isn't it?
There's a new scandal engulfing the government, this time over alleged misuse of taxpayer funds.
$100 million of sports grants in the lead up to the election last year were affected.
The sheer scale of political interference revealed in these bumper, colour-coded documents show the process was rigged from the start.
Will you apologise for your handling of this grants program?
Not at all. This was a hugely successful program.
A fresh turn tonight in the sports fraud scandal, with Revelations Minister Bridget McKenzie handed her own gun club almost $40,000 in taxpayers' cash.
Well, yesterday I resigned my ministry.
I think we can expect more focus on grants, regional grants, community grants in the weeks ahead.
Thanks everyone. I declare open this hearing of the Select Committee on Administration of Sports Grants.
I was here last night when the Auditor General thing was happening, and he was trying to explain, what was eligible and what wasn't eligible, and it was so confusing and my head almost exploded. But I think we landed on the fact that there were those projects that they might have been eligible at one point, but they became ineligible before the money actually changed hands. So, they'd started work or something. And so the government's still saying, well, the projects that were assessed as eligible. But then clearly, some were ineligible by the time they got money. So whose fault is that?
You don't see something like this often in politics, wherever you are, just the inner workings of government. Literally in technicolor. Look at that. Now, that's what's so embarrassing about it. This I think, was the most problematic thing for Bridget McKenzie.
But there's nothing wrong with that, the government would say. They're saying that she only lost her job because she didn't declare a gun membership which got one of the smaller grants. That they seem quite comfortable with
well,
that.
They do say that it was almost on the technicality that she fell, but not for this, when in fact I think she was cooked when this emerged, because it just shows you how the sausage works. And like any sausage maker will tell you, it's actually not pretty, is it?
Love to see it. You bring the rain. You are the rain man.
We're standing by for what is a very significant event here at Parliament House, and that is the Indonesian President Joko Widodo addressing the Australian Parliament.
Good day, mate. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
And he kind of came bearing a gift of sorts, and that is that the free trade agreement is set to proceed now.
Yes, and it was only last minute that the Indonesian Parliament actually approved that. They had to give their assent to it. A flight carrying 270 Australians has just left the coronavirus epicentre of Wuhan.
Then you survive this period, and so you've got a government that, in April last year was trumpeting its budget. It was in black. They're back in black. They've banked it in.
We've said it umpteen times, haven't they, since they're saying that they are back in black.
Yeah. And now you've got a coronavirus that's hitting tourism and travel. You've got a drought that's still going on. You've got bushfires that you're recovering from. That back in black's surely looking a bit
amid a global slowdown anyway.
Well, ScoMo's had one miracle. It would be probably a second miracle if they do hit that surplus. But everything seems to be now hanging.
He'll be canonised.
Well, he'll be canonised at that point, isn't it? I think. But maybe Bishop Frydenberg can do something on that front. But seriously, how are they going to do it? In some ways, it would almost be a bad look if you still got to surplus with all these massive problems. I mean, it would be remarkable.
How do you sell that to Joe Public if you've got money in the bank when people are going out the back door on the bones of their ass?
and that is, it actually does become a problem. You want to have almost empty the cupboard to try and protect Australia, the economy, communities from this hurt.
Some breaking news, Richard Di Natale, the Greens leader, will be standing down from the leadership of the party. He says he wants to be spending more time with his family.
So in the middle of the Nats trying to unsuccessfully turf out a leader We saw the Greens decide to have a change. So Richard Di Natale's calling it a day. He'll leave the Parliament later in the year.
They're a bit more streamlined, weren't they, with their approach?
Well, that's how to run a coup, isn't it? Where you basically announce it after it's happened. Not
Like
that
a
it was
no-no.
a coup.
But it was interesting that they actually told us it was happening this time. Last time they all just went into a room and suddenly they pop out and say Christine Milne is leaving, Richard Di Natale's the new leader. This time there was an actual vote.
Well, you know, for a party that's always decrying the quality of democracy, it's quite remarkable how much we don't know about their form of democracy. Who votes, can't ever get into the Greens conferences or used to not be able to. So it's quite interesting. Look, and ironically, it was the fall or the retirement, effectively, of the man who wanted to mainstream the party.
The great pragmatist.
Yeah, the great pragmatist,
If you started the parliamentary fortnight talking about fires, you end it with torrential rain that's pouring in parts of the country. You know, the government's got a whole lot to do. There's a drought going on out there. It's not going to be a quiet year for them in any way.
I'm a bit exhausted.
I'm exhausted.
I'm just beginning.
Well, I'm wondering what the horsemen of the apocalypse are going to bring upon this parliament, because we had pestilence yet, but we've had drought, we've had
hail.
Yeah, we have. So, goodness me, if any neighing around here, and I'm going to be turning.